until recently in theaters, now available on the Apple TV Plus streaming service, is the 2024 World War II thriller drama BLITZ, directed by Steve McQueen. Not that Steve McQueen, the more recent Steve McQueen, the one who's still alive, who directed 12 Years a Slave and a lot of quality stuff. This stars Saoirse Ronan as the mother of a young multiracial child in England during the Blitz. When, if you don't know about the Blitz, this is World War II. This is the Nazis bombing the hell out of England to try to get them just incapacitated, and people are living under air raids and having to run to shelters and having blackout rules where no light can be seen at night to make them a harder target, not to be confused with a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, for the planes that are flying over. And they're sending their kids away. A lot of families are putting their kids on trains to go out to the country that are presumably not going to be targets of the bombings, just to keep the kids safe while the adults stay behind and keep working and keep trying to keep Britain moving forward. So Ronan has to put her son on one of these trains. I'm not going to tell you the whole story. Ronan has to put her son, it's her and her son and her father living together in a small flat in London around the time of the Blitz, during the Blitz, I should say. And she has to struggle with the idea that I love my son, but I want him to survive, so we're going to put him on a train and hope for the best. Son is a little feisty. He hops off the train, and that's where this movie goes. So this movie is basically telling a couple stories at the same time. It's telling the story of the son who is trying to work his way back into where he lives in Stepney, I should say, and reunite with his family, and his mother trying to go about her business and keep working in the factory, which is all ladies because all the men are off to war, or pretty much all the men are off to war, and fight through the sadness of having to part with her child, who she hopes she will survive to see. And then eventually, again, I'm not going to tell you the whole story, eventually she finds out that he is missing and didn't get off the train where he was supposed to. So it's her looking for him amongst all the bombings, and him looking to find his way back to her. And it was good. It wasn't quite what I imagined it was going to be from the posters. It was Ronan and Elliott Heffernan is the Heffernan, I'm sorry, is the little boy. And it looked like it was maybe the two of them trying to work their way through a city that's being bombed and falling apart and on fire. But they're really only together at the beginning of the film. And I'm not going to tell you whether they get together at the end or not, because that's the journey this film takes. But it's really almost more about the boy's journey. And it almost felt almost like a boy's adventure novel, but very, very serious, where he goes through and he sees, horrible things happen. There's some shocking moments. There's some light moments. There's some shocking moments, very heavily dramatic moments, pretty nicely recreated World War II era England. And there is one kind of weird moment that took me out of the movie. It was like sort of the one hiccup in the movie, or stumble, where Heffernan finds himself with a gang of thieves led by Stephen Graham, who you would recognize, but you would rarely see speaking in his actual British accent. So it was nice when he showed up in this. I'm like, oh, they actually let him be a British guy in this movie, because he's usually seen here playing American, like thugs and gangsters and stuff like that. He's always great, but it's this weird diversion where this kid gets taken in by a family of thieves, and they're using the kid to help them thieve things out of bombed out areas, one of which is incredibly grim and ghoulish. And it just felt like this weird detour into like Pinocchio or Charles Dickens territory or something like that. But otherwise, Blitz was good. I'm always of these two minds with these films that are kind of made for a streaming service but get a little bit of a theatrical release. A lot of times I always say films that are sort of made for Netflix and that even have big names attached to them, they're usually, quality-wise, they're in this weird netherworld between a TV movie and a theatrical film. They're like better than your average TV movie, but not quite good enough to be in theaters. Blitz probably, I guess, is good enough to be in theaters. It was in theaters briefly. It was playing near me up until last week. I missed seeing it, and it suddenly, I think basically it left theaters on the day that it went to Apple TV Plus. But it would have played good, or if not a little bit better, in the theater. But it's good. I mean, Ronan is always solid. The cast in this is really good. It's some familiar faces if you're into British TV and movies and things. Benjamin Clémentine is great as civil air patrol, what they call it, that air raid warden, that kind of thing, who befriends the boy. The boy's story really is him falling in with different groups and different people that help him get along his way back home. And it's almost like Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey, but instead of dogs, it's a little boy, and there's no waterfall or something. I don't know. I never saw it. Anyway, Blitz is quite good if you're into a World War II set drama. There is some, explosions and fire and traumatic imagery here and there, but really it's more about a mother and son trying to reunite against all odds, as Phil Collins once said. So now streaming on Apple TV Plus is Steve McQueen's, not that Steve McQueen, the one who's still alive, Blitz.